Hi, it's your astrologer from belladevero.official.wordpress.com, and I'm continuing my Bella DeVero Foundation videos. I'm keeping the same title or something very close to it for this set of videos because I want to cover a subject or several subjects for my foundation. As if it's like one video, but it'll get too long if I do it in one video, so it's gonna have to be several. So first of all, I want to say my foundation, my Bello DeVero foundation, which I explained more in the other video. I'm never wearing makeup or fancy anything for my foundation because that's part of what my foundation is about, which I explained somewhat. I'll explain more as I, can, and on my website and here and everything, but also I wanted to mention one other part of, there are several parts of what my foundation is about. The title is one of them, Lilith is another one, fortune and the moon placement and your astrology birth chart are some other things. So anyway, and no labels, no walls, that's part of what my foundation is about, which I explained more in the other video. So the title, I wanted to use the title to get your attention, but I don't approve of it, which I explained. I'm not going to repeat the whole video, obviously. So if you want to watch that video, that'd be great. So you know what I'm talking about. So to continue my this set of videos on the title, that stems from childhood and being hurt and not feeling worth it. So my foundation is for feeling worth it for everyone. It includes everyone, so we all can love each other, learn to love each other, and treat each other like we're equal, not like have walls and everything. So what I want to talk about in this video, I talked about no walls and chakras and a little bit of boundaries. You need boundaries, but no walls. Like boundaries, like saying no and accepting that, and still saying, we're okay. Obviously, even though you said no to me, it doesn't mean we're having a fight or something. That's boundaries, or telling someone who you are. Not asking them who you should be. That's part of what my foundation is about. And Lilith especially goes along with that, for one thing. But I don't approve of walls, though, and labels, like I said in the other video. So I went on a little tiny rant about some people putting stuff out there, and then it being a perspective that I don't agree with. So to continue with that, my perspective is about, for one thing, I want to talk about lies, and I want to talk about being honest and the ego, and like, which is the sun sign in your astrology birth chart. That's your ego and your identity, that kind of thing. Neptune is good and bad things also. The sun has good and bad things about it. All planets do. It's not like anyone is perfectly nice or mean or anything. So Neptune is about psychic abilities and creativity and compassion and all those kinds of things, and dreams in a good way. It's not all bad, but it's also about fog and the boundaryless planet. No boundaries, that's what Neptune is about. And that can get kind of like where it rules Pisces. Pisces The water signs are psychic, and Scorpio and Cancer have shells around them. Scorpio, scorpion. Cancer is um the crab, so they have shells, so that protects them. But Pisces doesn't have a shell, so that's partly why it's co-ruled by Neptune, because it's no boundaries. Like Pisces is like, being one with you. Like, is like where Pisces doesn't know where you begin and where I begin. Like, it gets mixed. And that's where their opposite, Virgo, comes in. That can really balance each other out, because Virgo is the opposite of that. So that's why we all have opposite zodiac signs. Each zodiac sign does. So that's what Neptune is about. And Neptune is about like saying things that people want to hear. Because if you have a Neptune influence and don't know how to stop yourself from that, that's what Neptune is about. If you have some Neptune influence in your birth chart, if you don't know how to deal with it, if you haven't had life experiences to know how to deal with it, or if in synastry, if something's triggering that kind of situation to happen, aspect, that's what that's about. Neptune is no one's fault in synastry. You can't point your finger at whoever's doing the more Neptune stuff, which can go both ways sometimes, actually, if it's just, like, let's say, like, the Neptune person has the control in the situation, in the aspects or the aspect. If it's a Neptune situation happening, if it's where, like, the Neptune person is saying things that you want to hear, you can't point your finger at them. Or if it's a mere, like, of, what's the word? I can't think of the proper word now, but if you're doing that as the personal planet person and the Neptune person isn't really, where it's switched kind of, you can't point your finger at whoever's doing that and say, you're doing it on purpose. It's not. Neptune is just naturally Neptune. And what's happening is feeling bad and saying things that people want to hear, because for one thing, maybe you don't feel like you're living up to what something about you isn't really living up to their expectations, so you want to, so you want to paint a picture of yourself, because people have this construed idea that if you're good enough for people, they'll want to stick around, which isn't the way to think. Seeing who someone really is and saying, we all have faults, we're all worth it, you're worth it anyway, I'm worth it anyway, when things get tough, and you don't want to deal with life, or if you think you got to know someone because they're having a problem with a chakra or something, you know, or Pluto issues, that that whole subject, it gets misconstrued of like how you should really like see someone. And Neptune can happen about such things sometimes, and not all the time. You're not going to have a ton of Neptune aspects with people all the time. If your chakras are screwed up and someone thinks that you've changed, which no one changes, by the way. Like, if my birth chart aspects, this person's birth chart is going to be different than the aspects with mine and this other person's, that's one thing. But your chakras can change, throughout the day or whatever. And I'm not going to say how much or little, because each person is different and each situation is different, which I talked about in the other video. So watch that, because that's really important to know about whenever you have situations and don't know how to deal with your chakras. that makes them a certain way. No one else makes your chakras a certain way. So we need to have the mindset of, I know you have issues that I can't see because I just met you this second, or that you haven't revealed to me because you're scared or something. But you're worth it anyway, and I'm worth it anyway. And your chakras aren't perfect. They're either under or high, low or high, too high, or balanced. And that's okay too. We can be in each other's lives anyway and love each other anyway, or be friends and love each other anyway. However, whatever relationship we have with someone. Sometimes you're not in this certain person's life forever, or that one's, which I want to talk about too. I mean, for one thing, like, let's say music, celebrities or whatever, you can support some celebrity forever in their career, where I can go to Walmart forever. I don't have to go to some other store, because of some transit in the sky, astrology transit. But sometimes throughout life, you move, or you're not a part of that group, or, whatever. Especially with certain things in the birth chart, in the natal chart, life can be that way. But if your chakras are screwed up, you can still be friends with people if you think yours is lower than someone else's, even if it isn't. And for one thing, the whole Neptune Pisces, like, empath, psychic abilities thing, that doesn't make my chakras perfect or me have something more than you. I have a screwed up life as much as you do, especially with Scorpio South Node, or the South Node in the Scorpio house, which is the same thing. That can give you a crappy childhood, and it can be different kind of, the details can be for each person, but the ability to, heal or have psychic abilities or know about Reiki, that doesn't make me different from someone. Not that I'm actually a Reiki master or anything like it. I'm not. But I have psychic abilities, some though. So Reiki masters have chakras too, and I do, and everyone else on this planet does, and no one's chakras are perfect. So we have to have the mindset of going into any type of relationship, anywhere in life, any time in life, we're not perfect. We all have chakras. We're all screwed up. We all have Pluto issues, or Neptune issues, or Uranus, or Jupiter, or Saturn, or whatever issues, the moon, or all the planets, ego issues like the sun. They have to go into relationships where it's like not this perfect image at first, and then the people change, because no one really changes. You get to know people. Pluto synastry, in my synastry with this one person, can get brought up a lot to deal with it. And then I could not have Pluto synastry with you so much, so you're not going to see that, but it's still in me anyway, and it gets brought up to deal with it. No one changes into a different person. And Neptune, like I was saying, is not the Neptune or the other planet person's fault. It just naturally is what it is. So, what I want to talk about in this video, just because it's a subject I've been meaning to talk about, it's not to pick on anyone, it's to inform you about astrology. I want to talk about the liar of the zodiac. It's Leo. It's the sun, the ego. It's not Neptune. Neptune is fog where you can't see what's really going on, like, and no boundaries, where you're getting all romantic and mixed in with each other and like you're one. Fog, like you can't really see the Pluto issues of someone or the eighth house, whatever, or the ego, the sun issues. But the liar of the zodiac is the sun. It's the ego. The Leo is the liar of the zodiac. Some astrologers have made videos on the liar of the zodiac and said it's Neptune, but it's not. It's Leo. The ego likes to lie. Neptune is just fog and romantic, where you never get to see the whole. If a Neptune situation is going on, where it's not just one aspect or something, like one aspect can make it happen, but and the two people, depending on the situation. But whenever fog is going on, it's already there in the first place. Like where you just can't see all the details, the big picture of the whole situation, because Neptune is making it foggy. That's not a lie. Even though Neptune wants to say things that you want to hear because it feels not worth it or feels not good enough, it's not an outright lie where the ego is involved. The sun is the ego. Neptune is not the ego. Neptune saying things that people want to hear because you want to feel like you're giving someone a gift. That can be some kind of a lie. But Neptune and Pisces, Pisces rules by Jupiter and Neptune. Pisces is not the liar of the zodiac. It's the unconditional love, like, forgiveness, compassion, fog, like, and no boundaries, that's what Neptune and Pisces is about, somewhat about, but the actual, like, real liar of the zodiac is the creative house. The fifth house, that's Leo, because it's the actor house, it's the creativity, it's the writer house, it's the house of like, I can create a story to get you interested in what I'm saying. That's the liar of the zodiac. So basically, I'm going to keep this video about this and talk about um now let's see, we have more time. I'm going to keep it under half an hour, but let's talk about your true self. Like I said, yeah, that's a good thing to talk about because I already talked about that. Your true self. If you lie about who you are, that's one thing. If you just flat out lie to someone, for whatever reason, I'm not going to say all the reasons that you can lie, but it can be because you're afraid of what someone's going to think of you, which is not necessarily Neptune. You can tell 1,000 lies and it not be a Neptune situation in synastry. You really can. It's Leo. It's the fifth house. It's the sun. It's the ego. That's the liar of the zodiac. So your true self, whenever someone says, I'm showing my true self to you now, and they're being a jerk, that's not their true self. That's the hurt self. And this is definitely part of my foundation. Your hurt self and your true self is part of what I want to talk about as a informational, informational video. Let's call this your true self and your hurt self. Throughout my foundation, I want that to be one kind of label just because I want you to know what I'm talking about. Refer back to this video if you don't know what I'm talking about. Whenever I say that, it means what I'm explaining now. Your true self is one Your chakras and your confidence are kind of balanced, where you can interact with people. Whenever you can have a conversation and whenever not psychotic things are going on, whenever you are being your real, true, confident self, even if it's a mix of Capricorn, which is quiet, and even if it's a mix of Leo or Aquarius, which is confident, or a mix of Scorpio, which is intense, or Pisces, which is the dreamer, if you have a bunch of them mixed, you can still have confidence, obviously, so whenever your true self is in front of people, it's not the fifth house like acting. It's not like saying things that people want to hear, like Neptune. That's not your true self. It's your confident, healthy self, even if you're not all healthy all the time, which no one is all the time. Whenever the moment is where, especially in law of attraction chakra stuff, whenever you're sending out love and then you're receiving it, even if you're hurt inside and you think you're putting on a show, but because you're afraid to show someone that you're hurt, your hurt self is that other thing I want to talk about. But your true self is when you're being loving and confident and holding on conversations with people and interacting with people. And, it's not like where you're being a perfect yourself, because there's no such thing. There's absolutely no such thing as being perfect. No one is, never will be. But it's your true self is your confident self. It's when you're being a normal person interacting with people and just, being a person, where there's no walls at the moment or not enough of a wall that you're not interacting with people. If you have some nasty, like mean or selfish agenda, that's one thing. That's Pluto issues and like whatever, like, or if you're stealing from someone because of whatever reason, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, that's what you're afraid to let someone know because you don't want to be rejected. That's your hurt self, Your true self is when you're putting love out in the world and you're receiving it. Even if you have hurt feelings deep down inside you or just on the surface where you're afraid of someone seeing that, you're not faking it, like faking being a person. Like, there's no such thing, like acting is a job, and or it can be like fake it till you make it, If you fake yourself into being nice, you're gonna be nice for real then. If your actions are that way, like your thinking and your actions are two separate things, mm, that is a like deep subject that I can't cover in one video, but it's easier to act your way into a new way of being, like getting rid of your Pluto stuff, hurt feelings, and holding on to that, than it is to, change your. I forget the saying, which I found on Twitter, which was already the way I thought, and I explained it really well, and I wish I knew exactly the way it was worded. But faking it till you make it is not being fake. It's forcing yourself to interact with people anyway, even though you have fears in you, and even though you don't want them to see that about you. That's not being fake. There's no such thing as being fake. Like, two-faced, maybe mutable signs, there's four of them. Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces are the mutable signs, basically. Or Leo can be, or, because of the whole fifth house acting thing I said, creative, which being creative is not bad, in case you couldn't figure that out. But anyway, your true self and your hurt self are two separate things, and your hurt self is not your true self. Your hurt self is what your fears are all about. Your hurt self is not wanting to be rejected when you show someone that you're hurt or have Pluto issues to deal with or chakra issues to deal with. And all the sins you can commit, that's your hurt self. That's not your true self. Your true self is love. Your hurt self is fear. People screw that subject over so bad, and it irritates the crap out of me. You're not being fake when you're being nice. It's love. That's not fake. That's your true self. Your hurt self is when you have fear and when you have imperfections and you don't want people to see that. That's your hurt self. That's not your true self. Your true self is confident and can interact with people. So if you're being loving and interacting with people, that's your true self. That's real. And you get it back. That's law of attraction. So I want people to feel like they can be a part of my foundation and feel like they're allowed to have their imperfections, because that's your hurt self. And I accept that. And I have that too. So that's cool. Like, I know it's not cool to have that, but it's cool anyway, like you're allowed. So that's what, unless my voice dies on me here. So we'll see.